Ciao. Today we are on the 147 GT8 engine. And we're going to fully build that engine. Had an issue with the engine, so I had to ask my mate Giuseppe Busso at Alfa Romeo City to supply 6 liners for it. So we got 6 liners, 3.2 or 3 litre are the same at 93mm bore. Basically what changed on the 3.2 engine is the head of the piston, which they have very narrow profile section for the piston rings, and of course the head of the piston is different. I do have a 3 litre V6 piston here, so I'll show you what it looks like. So that's a 3 litre and that's a 3.2, so it does change. And also the conrod of course is different, because what we have different in that engine is the crankshaft, because the stroke is ever so slightly longer. So although the engine has exactly the same 3 litre crankcase, so it has different crank, different conrod, different piston and different intake camshaft. That's what is the difference between the 3.2 and the 3 litre, which we have here. So that's the crankcase, and as it's showing, says 3 litre C24 valve. So basically it's the same crankcase, same engine block. So as I was saying before, we have another nice 147 there GTA. As I said before, it's exactly the same engine, made for the first time as a 24 valve for the 164 V6 24 valve. So okay, just point this. So this is the liners that we have. You need to make a measurement tool for it, so that's what we got. So they're almost bang on. We're talking very little wear and tear. All the way along, almost nothing. Instead of the new old ones, which were those ones, we had crazy value. So it was absolutely out of the blue. So we had quite a lot, a tenth of a millimeter off. So those liners, they had done 100k and are warped like an Easter egg, so unfortunately not any good. We measured the piston are perfect, there is no wear and tear. Thanks to EB Spares for parts, so that's piston rings for it. They're not easy to find. We got a set of new shells to go on. Important, as everybody says, because I always recommend, when you do the heads on those engines, unfortunately you should change those, because these are the O-rings of the liners, which are that thick, or less than a millimeter. So imagine you have such a piece of rubber jammed between the cylinder liner and the crankcase, which basically what hold is the coolant to not go into the oil. So it's recommended really, when you take the head off, you should change them, because they are so fine, and as soon as you move the liners or you turn the crank by accident, they will move. You have to strip the whole engine. But really recommended in the olden days, even by the dealers, you should have taken the engine apart. Same story with the 4-pot engine, the Nord engine, which is designed anyway by Giuseppe Busso. So you should change them every time you take the head off, really. But of course, because of money, because of time, you know, we try to avoid it. Sometimes, yes, you can have luck and it's okay, but some other time, unfortunately not. As soon as you touch it, you disturb it, unfortunately will go burst. So basically we'll have coolant into the oil. So you have like a very nice mess. chocolate cafe latte into the crankcase. Right, so what we do, we put the piston rings on. Thanks always for around the nice ice gap to take off, so we can't hear anything. So that's the oil ring with the spring. That's the first one on the top, the chromed one, and this one is the middle section, which is the compression. So 2 compression and 1 for the oil. Okay, so the way I do them is get a piece of paper, right, so we put some paper around the conrod just to make sure we're not making no marks. Always try to get your bench nice and clean. You are in the art of the engine in here, so just try to go as much as clean as you can. So what you do, you put first that. I normally do things as if one of my ex-colleagues teach me this. So I normally screw them a bit this in, just to give more some tension in it. Put them in, put them round. Put them round the piston. So make sure you're going to close it right at the end. So that one, you try to go just opposite to the cut. So this here, we're going to go on the other end. So nice and slow, just open it up and try to go on the top of the spring. Quite delicate, so watch what you're doing. It's very easy to break. So one is in, that's it, in. Okay, so the next one, they have some letter on it. Normally when there's a letter there should be a top. So the way I put them in is this. So open them up, turn them round. Of course I went quite in the wrong slot. Got it in. Same story here, we got an R again. Unless you see it in the camera, bloody camera. That's the one. So what you do, you just do this, go over the piston, open up ever so slightly, and it goes on, no problem. That's it. Okay. The way I put the rings afterward into the block is, so if I start that, I start it at, let's say if I go watch the clock, 12, so I'm starting 9, 6, 3, so none of them are on the top of each other because the oil could go right through. Okay, and that's how you put the piston rings on the pistons. Now we have the shells. Shells really recommended here. Never put any oil because you are actually in garage the bearing to start to sleep. So no oil on the surface of the conrod. Right, so back on the piston has the cap, which as everybody we know, so you should take really the bolt off. Not the bolt off, but just put them like that, push them in, and that's it, that's fitted in. Okay, one. The second one on the piston, sorry, on the conrod, is same story. Just put them in that way, right on the edge. Right on the edge, push them in, and that's it. Okay. So the older engine, they always had the things, so if you lost for some reason, you never marked them or any reason, these slot, you always go face to face on older engine, so they go like that, you can't really go wrong. But on newer engine, the things are a bit changed, so actually they don't, most of them, they don't have the slot anymore. Not long ago I've done a Renault Scenic with 74k on the clock. I had to change the shells because I had a turbo failure, and the top half of the shells itself here had copper exposure, and they were gone with 74k on the clock. So that's a bit not normal, but they actually, the manufacturer recommended to change the shells when you strip the turbo, you change the turbo or whatever. So I'll come back to you when I've got everything ready to go on the liners and on the piston. So all the pistons are built and ready, so piston rings on all of them and shells on all of them. So we have that tool as a piston compressor, a piston ring compressor. So it's a sleeve, 93mm bore from this company, which is Busso. So bought online on eBay. Instead of using the conventional one with a ratchet or whatever, so that's a cone basically. You just shove the piston in, of course adjust the rings, push it in, that's it. Basically it's kind of, they use in factories when they build engines, so that's what they use in to manufacture, or somebody that has racing engine, and the most common engine always. So I actually planning to do quite a few engine of those, so I just bought the tools. At the time before pandemic was about £34, something like that, so I don't know now because price they went up to the roof of everything, so I don't know, but check it out. If you're in, instead to buy the universal one, which is a bit cheeky, if you're not really careful you can break a ring, because if it catch on the edge, with the edge of the ring, it can snap because they are cast iron, so quite brittle as well. So what we do, put oil on the head of the piston, right in the rings, turn it like so, here in the conrod pin, just make sure you got well lubricated stuff. Don't bother about this yet, because basically you can assemble the liner on the deck, which they were, the way actually manufactured, they were doing them. So basically just assembly the liners before with the piston straight in, and after you just shove the piston, the sleeve together with the piston on the conrod, and that's it, job done. Okay, so you can do it that way, or fix the liner first and after one by one put it in. So what we do here, as I said, so 9 o'clock, (6 o'clock) and 3 o'clock. So 3, 6, roughly 6 o'clock and 9, 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock. Okay, so tool works that way. Of course you just push it in like so. What's happening, you just have to, of course, put it straight. Put on the liner and basically tap it in. So as I said earlier, the way I do it, so 9 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock. So put oil in here on the Conrod pin, make sure you've got plenty of oil. You put it here in the ring channel, turn them all. Of course, you do that first to adjust of the adjustment. Okay, so 3, 6, 9. I'm using that tool, as I said earlier. So you put oil in it. Grab a liner, put plenty of oil in it. Okay, so what you do, just grab your piston like that, shove it in, like so. Like so. That's it. So, the oil in. I'm already free of them. I'll do the rest when I'm ready. I'm going to show you how to put the liners into the block and torque a Conrod as well. So that's the crankcase. Unfortunately, I cannot show how to torque the crank because I already put it in. There's a tricky part here, which is this main cap on the flywheel side. So basically those holes, they need to get filled with silicone. So what you do, you put them in, torque them, put the seals in place, and just that you have to make sure that it's going to be caked with sealant, otherwise you will have oil going everywhere. So that's the downside of this cap. Give me a moment, I'll give you also the torque set for it. I'm going to start to put our liners in, and I'll come back to you as well when I finish all the liners and I'm ready to go to the next step. So put the oil pump into the crankshaft, put all the auxiliary of the timing belt side, like sprocket, actually the cover, the sprocket and everything, and I will show you how to time the engine as well. So the main cap, they go 25 Newton meters and 79 degrees of torque. Weird, there's 79 not 80, but that's it. That's what I've got there as a figure. What I'll do, I'm going to prepare to put liners in together with the piston, and I'll show you the process shortly. Okay. So now I'll show you how I'm doing this. So to start with, so the engine, so that's the timing belt side. So cylinder number 1 is the one on the rear bank when you are sitting in the front of the car. So number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So mark them with a small dot here, just to don't be confused, but anyway, we will know that. So when you put the piston in, there's a small arrow here, right there. So the arrow pointing towards the timing belt side. So that's what I'm doing. So make sure when you put when you measure and take the torque set, measure the bolts, because there is 2 torque sets for an M9 and an M12. This is M12. So there is 2 different torque sets. So I'm looking now for cylinder number 3, which is that one. So that one. So I'll put ever so slightly a leap of some black gasket silicone. And also the engine is 25 years old almost. 20, well sorry, almost 20 years old. It's a 2004. So liners, alloys get a bit worn. So Normally you would have put some oil, but I put some just ever so slightly gasket silicone of good quality. In that case I'm using Ren's oil seal. So just ever so slightly, like so, just to have a smooth bit. So I'm using some red line assembly lube. Make sure you have plenty on the conrod shell. So you grab your things. So as I said, see the arrow here? So the arrow goes that way. So put that in. Make sure the conrod doesn't catch anything. Should be. Sometimes they're a bit tight, sometimes they go straight through. You get a small tappy. That is a plastic hammer. Corrod's still free, so just a matter of going straight in. And then when it's in, make sure it's just tapping down. So that's all 3 liners in. I'm going to flip over and I'm going to start to torque. So beforehand, what you do, yep, 2 big socket, and so you go on the lip of the liner. So make sure if you turn the crank, you're not going to pop the liners up. There's a 1-inch, well sorry, 1/8 imperial socket. Another one that does the job is a 46mm. Perfect to go right on the edge of the liners. So 17mm spanner, right on the edge. Ever so slightly tight. Same story with the other side. So we'll just go and grab the socket. So that's the setup. Both of them just catching on the edge. So basically, if you turn the crank, they will not pop up, because this is of course are just sitting by gravity in it, and of course the head will just sit them down and squash them against the block. So every time you see those kind of style, you have to put something on it if you want to turn the crank. So that's it. That's it. And there, well, we're going to torque everything, and I'll come back to you in just a moment. I'm going to set up the torque set, which will be, torque set is 25mm, 26mm, and 81, between 77 and 81 degrees. So 25mm between 77 and 81mm. So I will do 25mm and 80 degree on the conrod. So these are the M12 one. So that's ready to go. So again, as I said, these they point face to face, and plus you got the dial dowel, so you can't go wrong really. You put some more assembly paste oil on it, just to make sure we not have nice and smooth. We put it in like so. .30mm socket. Advised, wash always your socket when you build an engine. You don't want any really crap going into the engine. Any debris or anything from the stuff which get collected into the sockets you will have in your engine. So set 25 Newton meters. So 25 Newton meters done, and that will be with your degree. I have a very old school one. Got this stuff from an old guy, retired. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years back in my country. Who doesn't know I'm Italian? I'm from a place near Salerno, which is called Ajusa Gasket. If anybody watch video, ciao everyone, ciao a tutti. So 80 degrees, of course 90 will be down here. We'll stop just before that. So that one, and two. Check this for play, make sure it's not seized. And that's the first one set up, done. So again, 25 Newton meters, 80 degree. So, we got everything bolted in. All bolted in, so piston going up and down by hand, so that's good. Okay, so when you've done those checks, and remember to put those on, because otherwise you'll fly the liners out again. Now we're going to pass to the bottom to complete the oil pump assembly. So, the restart housing, which goes in here, doesn't have any gasket at all, so we're not going to fit anything. One, okay. The M8 bolt, bear in mind there is a steel, high carbon steel not spring wash, waved washers underneath. Alright. So after you tighten that, the start sleeve has to go in. When I dismantle it, I made a mark here with a, like a dot, just to mark them in the position. I had a feeling like one was smaller than the other, but I'm not too sure 100%. I've never measured it. I did find two new rings for this, because the original one they were like hard like a stone, and managed to find them and I replaced them. Important things, because if a suck air in here, you will destroy the engine. Alright, so get that in there, get this in there. That's it. For curiosity, if somebody is wondering what tools I use Most of my sockets are Koken, made in Japan. And in that case, this socket I just bought this set last week, I think, or 2 weeks ago, from Brito. Drive impact, very good. Value for money. 100 quid plus VAT. And there's a set deep and shallow socket 3/8 impact for the gun from 8 to 19, I think. So not too bad. Okay, so now you got the oil pump on. Hold it. Chain is a pattern bits. I'm not too sure if you can get any parts for this. Don't think so. That's thanks to Fiat all the time, which give us those emotions. Right, so what you do, bear in mind that's to remove it you need a puller when you dismantle it, because no chance it'll come off. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use a camshaft sprocket holder tool to hold it and torque the bolt for the oil pump. And that's your oil pump assembly anyway. Right, so get the tool in. Don't ask me the torque set because I don't know. I'll just feel it by hand, to be honest with you. This year is going to be 20 years I'm actually in the motor trade as a mechanic. That's it, it's not going anymore. So oil pump done. Okay. But now we're going to put the timing belt housing. It's brand new seal, actually sandblasted. Looks okay. Let me prepare the bolts and I'll come back. Right, so I'm using this sealant, Loctite IMR 5923. You can find it online. But here in the UK, I always used to do that, to use this stuff in my country. In Italy you can find everywhere. Here is a bit hard to find in any store, but you can buy it online. Great stuff for gasket, paper gasket and cork gasket. I'll be honest with you, that stuff never failed. I never had any problem with it. So I'm going to use that over the gasket and I'm going to put it on. So now, as usual, as soon as I start, an aircraft is taking off. So sorry if you don't hear me. So use that stuff. It looks like a bit ugly. I have to say, I never failed. Never failed on paper gasket and cork gasket. It is really good stuff. And the links, the bloody stuff which is excess. The best way to clean a mess, of course when you put too much petrol is the best way to remove that stuff. Petrol just melt it down quite quickly. Okay. So if it's true, it should be like so. Like so. Like so. What gasket? Same story. I'm going to put that paste on this side. The only annoying things of this stuff, unfortunately, if it's been a while with the gasket, unfortunately, will destroy the gasket because it's thick that much. It's not like the black gasket silicone that preserve it. So we bond it together with the paper gasket, so if in the case you have to take it off, you need another gasket, so we'll rip it off. But it's okay. as long as we can find a gasket for these engines, or in the worst case scenario we just made one. We may have to make a video because no tutorial how to make a gasket. It's one of these things that is lost, but in the olden days, yes, you had to make stuff for yourself. Right, so put some oil on the shaft here where actually the seal goes, which is going to be over the gear of the oil pump. Make sure you're not going to catch anything with the seal, and that's it. So that's in. So you have just 6 bolts, M6, which are 10mm head. You do need a very shallow socket because the wall here is quite tight. So a very thin wall one, because otherwise they won't go anywhere. Right. Always a bit diagonal when you touch stuff. So flange or something, just go diagonal. If you go straight on one end, if it doesn't go in, you will snap the lot. So in that case, that one goes. So I may have to get, I'm not too sure, maybe a quarter drive. Not too sure. I need to see. I'll see if I can get the deep one. Bloody wind is annoying. Right, so yeah, it's quite tight here. So I'm not, there's not actually much we can do. Yes. Oh no, that's actually not the hole for that. Tried this thing. That's weird. Come back and see. It's a mistake. Put a bigger bloody washer underneath. Put M7 on it. Which the hole is M6. Bad. Okay, so that's done. So my bad, that's a 5mm Allen key. So in that corner is a 5mm Allen key. Alright, so we're going to shove this shortly on, so that means the bottom end is done. Right, so put some silicone on the engine block. for crankcase. Now we're going to put the sump on, and so the engine, the crankcase is complete. So the sump has been vapor blasted, but my friend at Coldstream, Dave Giuseppe Busso, Alfa Romeo City. That's it. Got that in. Just that. Things. This one goes right here. Oh, sorry. What goes right there? Because they hold it, the crank sensor. It's got a heat shield for it in the back. So that's what it's for. I'll come back to you when it's done. All back together, torque. So bottom end complete. Mission complete. As I said earlier, we put the heads on. Unfortunately, do not have any video of the assembly of the heads, but that's the same like a 3 litre. I have quite a few, so if somebody's interested, just get to me in touch. I'll make a video how to strip it down and assemble the head again, which it's not a big deal, but if somebody's a bit concerned or never done it before, I'll make a tutorial how to strip it down, lap the valve, change the steam valves, the valve steam seals, and put it together. Okay, I'm going to turn this baby upside down. I'm going to put the flywheels on it, and after that I'll start to get the head ready to go on it. Alright, cool. So for the flywheel we have torque is 32 Newton meters. So we've got 8 volts, 70mm head. Always put some Loctite on it and make sure they're tight. As these bastards, if it comes off, will come right into the cabin like a shredder. There's a legend in my country once. A guy was doing a job on his clutch on a race car. They took the gearbox off. They had to skim the flywheel. They forget to tighten the flywheel, and the flywheel actually was a 7,000 RPM. Came off of the engine, shredded the gearbox housing, and went right in the cabin next to his feet. That was a scary thing. So torque is 30 Newton meters or 32 Newton meters and 50 degrees. Bloody hell, that's tight. Not going anywhere for sure. God, that's tight, that's tight. That's it. Okay. If somebody's going to ask himself how I'm going to hold the flywheel, I did make a tool here. Just a plate, basically. I shaped the flywheel into it. It's got a few slots for the chrome. That will be in the special tool for the Busso. Just like so. basically I just match it with the angle grinder. It's not the best, but I'm the best made. I was actually in a hurry to make it, so I'm going to keep it like that with an O-ring. So that's the tool for the Busso. Alright, so crankcase basically is complete. So I'm going to put the clutch, actually no, I'm going to put the clutch, that will be ending this part 1 of the video. So I'm going to put the clutch on and I'll cut back to you shortly. So that's the clutch kit, brand new value, supplied by Alfa Shop. Those guys are amazing. Appreciate Peter. Just say hi to Phil at the shop. Always very good with me. And also those parts, the rest of the parts have been supplied by EB Spares for the internal parts, like shells, like piston rings, because the GTA and Busso is a bit particular. So I have, again from that guy where I bought the parts, sorry, the tools, that's an input shaft from a Fiat Croma, which fits nice and neat, straight, bang on. That's a GTA clutch, actually, because these flywheel and the clutch plate and the crank are being actually balanced. It should be an arrow. That's the arrow on the flywheel. That's the machine shop made it. As a GTA flywheel is a solid mass, so it's not dual mass like the rest of the GTV. All the 3 litres engine 166 as well. Alright, so 3 litre V6s, they are dual mass flywheel. Instead, the 156 2.5 V6 has solid mass flywheel, but it's not the 8 style bolts, it's just the 6 bolt one. There's one missing. Should be still in the petrol. This one the bolt. Another few one here, one there, one there. Okay. So everybody's Torx as a beta. Part number of the beta tool is 920 ES, it's number 7, and that's the one I normally use, because actually those bolts are, actually the socket is shaped like a cone, so if you put a normal one or a Torx, you may destroy the bolt. Smaller one. Again, always diagonal. For people that don't know about these kind of clutches, there are a pull style, no, push style So basically what happens, your release bearing, it goes jammed into this sleeve here, and it's got a C-clip which basically is pulling the clutch instead of pushing the clutch. So if you see the blades, they're coming up instead of go down like the other style, because again it's the other way around. That same clutch, like same idea. Well, the first time I brought it in was on the Lancia Tema, I'll call it the right way, or the Fiat Chrome as well, Mark 1. That's such a pull style clutch. So 164 as well, they had the same. So there was an agreement between Fiat and Alfa at some point. Well, actually, all the Italian manufacturer were making a universal input shaft just to simplify the parts. Oh, they have too many volts. Actually 12 volts. One. That's the other one. We got any more. Two. Three. Four. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So let's check again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay, so that's the engine complete, bottom end. Lock here, we've never been able to turn. Okay, so that's it. And now it's just the plate into the clutch plate. Perfect. Like so. Just a quarter of a turn before TDC. So when you time the engine, of course, that's cylinder number 1, so it will be the first one up for the TDC point. So basically what you need to find is this spot, because you put the dial gauge, so that's the spot pretty much to time the engine. I normally keep them when I've got heads to go on, just a quarter of a turn anti-clockwise, so you're sure that the piston will hold down, because the last thing you want, you torque the head on the engine and somehow the piston hit the valve, and basically before you start the engine is already damaged. Alright, cool. So I'll come back to you with the second part of the video. Put the head on, timing, the timing belt, everything, all of the auxiliary to go on, and the rest. Alright, ciao ciao, see you next video.